Hey y'all, it's your girl Byrd here, and it is 2022, and we are running into this year like no other. I am super excited to be with you all today for another episode of Byrd Talk Live, y'all. This is a space where we're able to really align with our creativity, and this is where we are here to create, to connect, and to build with one another. If you are here with us right now, let us know in the chat who you are, where we're coming from. We can see your comments. I might toggle between a couple of screens so I can make sure I can see you all in the building. And if you haven't already, make sure you share this with your friends, folks who want to be in this space, who want to be creative, and who want to be a part of the conversation. So I am super excited for those of you all who don't know me. As I mentioned, my name is Byrd. Feel free to just interact with us as much as you want to. I am the creator and founder of Byrd's World, which exists to inspire and transform lives through creativity. And what I really do, and what we do as a business and organization, is help move ideas into action by working with creatives and entrepreneurs and writers to really get ideas out of their heads onto the page and into creative action so that they can birth their badass story, blog, book, keynote speech, or any idea or dream that you have that you've been sitting on. This is the place where you're able to do that with confidence. Y'all, today I am so excited to bring to the virtual stage someone that I met through a challenge actually that we did probably at the beginning of 2021, I believe. It was a challenge that I was holding for one of the Facebook groups that I have that include a bunch of writers, and we were doing a writer's mindset challenge, and this beautiful human popped up, and we spent the majority of 2021 together in some capacity, and then we actually had a chance to meet one another this past November for the first time in person, because COVID is ruining some things, but it's also bringing people together. So if y'all in the comments, please make sure y'all welcome my girl today, Laura Johnson, who is a writer and a poet, and who just released a new book that we will talk a little bit more about today. I'm super excited to spend the next hour with you, Laura. Welcome.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here and excited to chat with you.
Yes, I I'm so excited to have you in this space. Hey Roslyn, I see you in the comments. Welcome to the space. I'm glad you're able to tune in. So I know about you and your work because we've crossed paths multiple times throughout last year. Let the hummingbirds know who you are. And when I say who you are, I mean we have a tendency to not give the full picture of who we are. We don't brag about ourselves. So I want you to take a second and really brag about who you are, your accomplishments, where you have gotten up until this point. And I want the world to know your magic. So it's all you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I grew up in the Midwest, in Illinois and Iowa, and I got to high school, and a big thing in my family was studying world language. I started actually in fourth grade taking French and then German and then more French. And then I got to high school and my high school offered Russian. So I wanted to be different. So I took Russian and ended up majoring in Russian and actually have a master's in Russian linguistics. So
What?
I've always been really focused on language and the
Mhm.
differences of language and the nuances of language, and it's just been a ongoing passion of mine is just the differences between everything. My sisters were similarly inclined, actually, and um, I taught high school Russian. I taught high school English. I taught high school creative writing for 23 years in Iowa, Illinois, and Georgia,
Mm.
and had a had a family and put a lot of what I really wanted to do off to the side for the benefit of my
Mm,
offspring. And then in about 2009, 2010, I was like, okay, these humans are going to grow, and then I'm going to be on my own. And what do I want that to look like? And
mm,
so um, I found a voice at the Iowa Summer Writing Festival. Um, and everything just kind of blossomed from there as far as writing and creativity. I have a lot I can say about that, but I know that's coming up, so I don't want to. I don't want to do spoilers for you. Um, but I just really think that my big thing is that everyone has a story, and every
yes.
story has an audience. So
Oh, say that one more time in case people did not hear that. I love that. Say that again.
every story has a voice, and every voice, every story has an audience.
Oh, I think that's so important because I've met a lot of people who one fall into that category of when you ask them what their story is or if they have a story, they tell you they don't have one. And when they say that, that honestly breaks my heart because your life and my life are not the same, right? And so to think about well, this story has already been told, so there's no need for me to tell my story. Like there isn't room for my story to be admired or to be absorbed or just to let other people know that you see them and that they're not alone. It genuinely breaks my heart. So that's why I really wanted you to say that one more time because everyone has a story and everyone's story definitely needs to be told and there's an audience for it. I absolutely love that. I feel like that needs to be on something as a
Maybe a
reminder.
T-shirt.
It could be a t-shirt. I think it's super important. Oh, that's so great. Um, I'm really curious about and you said you were a teacher for 23 years. What was is there a student that really sticks out in your mind over the course of 23 years that you really gravitated towards or reminded you of why you do what you do as an educator and as someone who helps others tell their story?
Oh man, Heather, so many. I'm kind of tearing up just going back in
Oh,
the archives. So many students have had an impact, and just really were part of that. I have a story. I think one student who really stands out to me. I think he'd be shocked if he hears this. Is I primarily taught high school juniors. That was my
mhm,
main teaching assignment throughout the years. And so as such, I helped a lot of students write college entrance essays, right?
mhm,
And one of the things that this student came to me and he said, I want to write about my my high school experience. And I said, fine. Okay, what about it? Let's hone in a little bit, right? Let's focus. And he went to a private, uh, basically Caucasian school in Georgia,
mhm.
and he said, "I want to write about how there's no racism here." And I
Oof.
said, "Is that your story, or is that a story someone has told you?" And the
Mm,
student identifies as African American.
mhm,
And I said, "I want you to go home and I want you to think about if that's your truth. We can write that. And if that's not your truth, I want to encourage you to write your truth." And about 3 days later, he came back to me and he said, so this is the list of all the racist stuff that I've encountered. And he had a
mm,
list of it. And I said, so we need to craft this into something because this is your story. Don't let other people tell you what your story is. You need to tell what your true story is. And I think that, I mean, I'm just, was
mm,
really moving for me for he was allowing other people to dictate his story. And I
mm,
think so many people do that. Women do that. Children let their parents tell their stories. And I think it's so important for everyone to find a voice and then to just scream out loud.
yeah. like literally, it's sometimes just literally screaming and filling up space with your voice can be something that is so empowering. And we don't create, I mean, we don't create space to do that. We're not in classrooms, and we're taught to, if we talk too loud, we're told to temper our voice, or depending on what background you come from, you're supposed to be, shy, or whatever that means. But your voice has so much power, and when someone diminishes that power, you start to, what's the word I'm looking for, you start to hold on to that in your body, and you start to think like, this is who I really am. I love the fact that you said you wanted to encourage this particular student to write their own story and write their own truth, and not the truth that someone else told them that it actually is. And it's really curious how you went from like that switch from talking about how there isn't any racism here to, oh wait, this is a list of all the things that have happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's opposite ends of the spectrum. And so challenging that student to actually think about what is real. um that's a true educator move right there. And I love it.
Well, I think one of the things that tells me I did a decent job, at least in the classroom, is just about a month ago, I had a former student who I hadn't heard from in, gosh, 10 years. She
Mm,
messaged me on social media and said, I'm applying to grad school. Will you help me with my essays?
mm.
So I was like, yeah, all right. I did something right with some people at least. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm always very honored. And she said, how much do I need to pay you? And I said, you're a
Mm,
student, your family, nothing.
mm.
So
The
yeah.
impact that teachers and educators have on students is huge. I mean, this wasn't an educator. Well, no, it was the educator that I had that recently just passed away. I found out a week ago, and I realized the impact that he had on me in terms of investing in me in a way that others didn't necessarily do. Like, he was my first softball coach in high school, actually. And he told me that, you ever been a pitcher? And I was like, no. And he was like, all right, well, we're going to train you. And I'm like, say what now, what? And I was required to come to the gym every day during my lunch period to learn how to pitch. And I became one of the best pitchers in the city because of that training. And so it's like the dedication and the hours that you all like put into students is something that we can't necessarily track, and folks don't think about how many hours you all actually put in as educators. And sometimes it's a thankless job, but students remember you. Like, even if they don't reach out to you all the time, they are there, and they remember the impact that you had. So thank you so much for just, I have a special place in my heart for educators. Yeah, it's dope. I'm really curious in learning more about what are some of the things that you are passionate about.
Ah, yes. Well, one of the things that I tend to do, I put on my glasses to look scholarly here, um,
Hmm.
is one of the things I'm really passionate about is looking around wherever I am and seeing what's there, um,
Mhm.
a lot in the creative world, and then creating what isn't there. So I moved from Augusta, Georgia to Cedar Rapids, Iowa 7 years ago. And there were some, I mean, it's Iowa. I live just north of Iowa City. So people, hear about the University of Iowa and the Writers Workshop and all the kind of things that go along with that, and some good and some maybe questionable.
Mhm.
Um, and I looked around the community that I lived in, and I visited a few writing groups, and they weren't supportive and they weren't helpful, and they had members who would say, "Well, I'll read your work, but I'm not a poet, so I'm not going to comment on it."
Mm.
Yet they expected me to comment on 20 pages of what they called fiction. I was just like, if I'm going to put in the work for you, I want you to put in the work for me. So I looked
Mhm.
around and I didn't find that kind of group. And so I started one.
Mm.
I was like, okay, who needs a group? And talked to a few acquaintances that I had. And they were like, yeah, yes, I'll do that. And so we started in 2018 the Cedar Rapids Writers Workshop.
Mm.
um, that meets once a month. Um, just in 2019, the long-running print journal, the Wapsipinicon Review, closed its doors, which is an Eastern Iowa publication here, was. And I thought, hey, we need an Eastern Iowa publication that is not Iowa City based. There's
Mm-hmm.
the Iowa Review. There are other um, smaller presses in Iowa City that are all wonderful, but we need something outside of Iowa City. So at Writing Group, I said, who wants to start a literary magazine? And two people were up for it.
That's all
And
you need.
so we founded Backchannels Journal, which is an inclusive space for all writers. We will never charge a submission fee because we want everyone to have access to publication. Um, so I think the big thing I'm really passionate about is, as I said, everyone has a story, and there's an audience for every story, and there are places to tell those stories. And if there's
Mm-hmm.
not, let me know because I'll probably make one for you.
I love
Because
that fact. You're like, if it's not here, I'm going to create it so that there is a container for us to live in and then be in community with. Because it's not even just like, here's the container. That community is really part of the writing journey and making sure to have that supportive community. Because without it, it's a solo journey, right? And that solo journey can be necessary, but also to get stuck in your head as a writer can be one of the worst things that could possibly happen sometimes, because then you're just moving in circles like constantly and you're not finding the answers, and it's not until someone outside of you can see what you're missing, you're like, oh, that's the missing piece, got it.
right, right, yeah. One of my professors, I'm in the low residency MFA program at University
Mm-hmm.
of New Orleans, and one
Mm-hmm.
of my professors said, "Well, clearly you're a community builder," and I thought, I've never
I've used
taken that
that term for you.
label.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, you are because of these things." And I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, well, all right.
Own it.
Yeah,
Own
I'm
it.
okay with that."
Make that a
So,
part of your magic. Make that a part of what you brag about. Like, that's not something that everybody can do in terms of bringing people together, right? And so when you start thinking about your own superpower, I'd say finding spaces that don't exist and allowing them to flourish. That's a superpower.
yeah, that's true. In fact, Backchannels is, we'll have our January edition out at the end of
Mm,
the month. And our next edition is going to be published at the end of March, and it is an edition for exclusively female identifying authors.
mm,
So we are making space for women during Women's History Month, and then at the end of June, our edition will be an edition exclusively for LGBTQIA community members. So
nice.
we are making space with the small platform we have for
Mm-hmm.
different writers. We had a poetry contest last year. We'll have a fiction contest this year. That's a paid. Both of those contests are paid, even though we don't charge submission fees. So
Yeah.
we're
You're
trying to,
creating opportunities.
yeah, yeah. And the universe honors that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in it for
Speaking
myself, but I'll take whatever the universe wants to offer me.
I'm gonna say, speaking of the universe, isn't there another group that you bring together on a regular basis that does some work around, cards and I'm talking about tarot?
Oh yes, 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 yes,
You're looking at me
yes,
like, nope,
sure.
nope, I can't, I'm not catching on. I'm not catching on, Bird. I don't.
Cards. I'm not in a gaming. No. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I read tarot, and I am a part of that. And we had a wonderful apothecary in the area called K Apothecary that just recently closed.
Mm,
Um, and we had a magical writers night, which was for writers who were people who were into the metaphysical, tarot,
mhm.
numerology, that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's always fun too. Yeah, that's
yeah.
actually one of the series. I'm working on several series right now, and
Yes,
it's a
you are.
fun poetic series through tarot. So that's one of
Yeah.
mine. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I like the way you put it, like the metaphysical and how that informs the writing. It's a different world into the writing that allows you to see other things outside of yourself. That I think is really really important. So that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. You gave us somewhat of an insight of like how language and yeah, how language was naturally kind of integrated into your life at an early age. Um, First of all, you majored in Russian. Like what? I don't think I've ever. That's dope. Like I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they majored in Russian. I tried to take French and that didn't work out well. So who knows what Russian would look like for me. I have a Spanish background, and so when I tried to switch over to French, it did not work out for me well because I'd say un dos tres, like I just couldn't. It wasn't
Mhm.
working.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm really curious in even though you were like integrated into language at an early age, when did you realize that poetry was the place for you and that you could express yourself in that way? Like when did that aha moment kind of happen for you?
That's a good question. So,
You all don't understand. Laura's sighs have its own conversation within it. Like the amount of thinking that happens in conversation that happens in Laura's sighs are it's real. It's real. So this gonna be good. What you got?
so I have actually, they're right over here to my right. Um, I have a memory of uh, writing the first poem. I was cognizant that I was writing a poem, and
Mhm.
my family was on vacation in Colorado. We used to vacation outside Estes Park, and I was sitting on a rock by the Big Thompson River, and I was evidently in fifth grade because that's referenced in the poem. And it was this existential, angsty kind of like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know. Who knows where to go in life kind of poem. And I still have the original copy over here.
Mm.
Um, and that is when I realized that I could put words together and they didn't all have to make super logical sense. I could
Mm.
make imagery sense. Um, I could draw a picture with words and convey what I was thinking and feeling. Because for me, poetry is it's the words for sure, but
Mhm.
first and foremost, it's something that's gosh, emotional, metaphysical, spiritual. It's something that you kind of like have to pull out of
Spirit.
you and
Yeah.
then put words to it.
Mhm.
And so I would say that, I would say, what, fifth grade sounds really cheesy, right? But
I think that's fine.
then from fifth grade until really like 4 years ago, I was a dilettante. I dabbled. I would write when I could. I would write when I had an assignment. I would write when I was, going through a divorce, whatever. But it
Mhm.
was never a concentrated effort. And now that my youngest child is 20 and gainfully employed, I can do whatever I want.
You get to play.
And yeah, so I'm able to have a more focused poetic practice. But I mean, it's just been there definitely since fifth grade and has come about in different iterations over the years. And so I would say to anyone listening, if you feel like, oh, I wish I could have more time or I wish I had more energy or whatever, it'll come. Don't let go of it. Let it come when it comes and keep moving forward.
Yeah, there's actually a study. Why is there an echo? Huh. Do you hear the echo or is it just me?
I do not hear an echo.
Okay, well, we're gonna keep rolling then, as if it's not a thing. There's actually a study that's out there that supports the idea that people who are in their 30s and 40s, that's when they're actually the most creative. And I feel like we think the opposite of when, we are very creative when we're young. And I feel like we have the agency to be creative and to create things that don't make sense. And I say that in a way to like, we put language to what exists, but it doesn't mean that that's the definite answer to things. Like we might take Legos and use it to feed ourselves. Like what's wrong with that when you're 2 years old? And there's someone that's out there that's saying, no, you have to use this utensil. Why not use a Lego? Why not do things that are unconventional to help your brain kind of play around? We don't play enough when we're older. So I love this idea of like, you dabbled for a while and then you're like, now I have a chance to play with language. Now I have a chance to explore what this looks like. And I would say, this newfound freedom that you have and this ability for you to be able to play allowed you to move into the space where you published a book. And all of me wants to be able to say the title properly. So I'm going to give it a shot. And then you can look at me like I'm crazy. And I have my sticky note right here because I said it wrong, y'all. I said it wrong at first. Okay. So is it Memento Vivere?
Vivere.
Vivere. Okay. So I put the accent on a different. So I was close. I was close.
You're very close. Yeah.
Which came, you all, with a very beautiful homemade bookmark that I received from Laura, and I received a signed copy from the author, which I am super excited about. But you have a whole book. Tell us about the book and the inspiration around the book and the title and kind of where that comes from and what it means.
Okay, so the title means remember to live. Mm-hmm. We see the phrase memento mori, which is remember you're going to die, which is kind of the more threatening aspect of that. So memento vivere is remember to live, because so many people have experienced illness and death in any phase of life, but especially the last 2.5 years, right? Mm-hmm. What are we going on? Some number of years with the pandemic and everything, and seen kind of the darker side of life. So the idea behind this chapbook was, if you still can breathe, you need to make sure you're living, and whatever that means for you. There's no prescription in the book. There's no poems that say you must sneeze every day or you must, do this every day in order to be living. It's simply an exaltation to whatever the thing is, to do the thing. And what brought this into sharp focus for me, Heather, was last year in November. Well, my father had been ill for some time, and I'm going to cry. And last November, my father was got COVID and had his other illness and died as a result of it. And I got to just reflecting on how no one ever knows when it's your last year of life. You don't know. We don't know. How did we spend this last year? We can reflect every day on how we spent the last year. What did I do last January 4th to this January 4th? But whatever it was, in some way, I want to make sure I'm living every moment in some way. And so that just came into focus for me. And somebody said something recently to me, like, every year that we live our death day. Like,
that we live our death day. Explain that.
So you think of, we just went through 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of those days is going to be the day that I die, but in another year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea here is to gracefully and beautifully and thoughtfully mourn those who have passed and remind ourselves we're still living. And so we can honor ourselves, we can honor life, we can honor those who have passed, we can honor those who may still be coming in our future by embracing life.
Yes. Oh,
So
that's so beautiful. I really love that description. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the poems in the book, one, your choice of words and language and how you pull them together is so simple yet complex and very beautiful at the same time. I am a deep fan of alliteration, and there are several poems in here where you just play with sound. And I remember reading the poems to myself, and then I read them out loud and like listening to the words and how they sound. Just it brings out that feeling that you were talking about when you read poems. It makes you feel a certain way. But there are several points within the book where you focused, I felt like you purposely focused on things that most people don't pay attention to. And you mentioned that in the beginning too. Like you said
yeah,
that, like you really enjoy paying attention to things. I can't remember how you said it exactly, but you pay attention to things that most people don't. And I feel like this book demonstrates that really, really well, where you could have easily, gone at it. And the way they kind of explain it in, the writing poetry world is like you could have gone at it through the front door. You definitely went at it from the sides or looked at it from the yard, like several yards. Or
yeah,
like a blade in the grass.
mhm.
You took different perspectives to really get at the heart of what you were saying. And um I definitely had a feel of time in this book. Like there were definitely moments there where I was like, oh, this is a 2021 type type piece, right? You could, which is wild because I don't know if for anyone who isn't living through this time, who's like later on reads this 20 years down the line, if they'll actually be able to connect to it the way that we can now, because of what we're living through. And so it had that beautiful timeliness, and relatability that was here. um, so I thank you for that. I thank you for putting this out into the world. I thank you for um, the thoughtfulness that I know you put into it. Um, and the work that you put into it, because poems are not easy.
That's true.
And you can tell that there was work put into this. So I thank you. I thank you for this. I've had a chance to read it and hold it in my hands and hear your work before. And I would love for you to share a couple of pieces to give the hummingbirds kind of like a feel of what this book represents. Maybe it's your favorite poem. Um, Maybe it's one where you're like, I haven't read that out loud yet, or in a while, and I want to like hear it, right? Um, so I'm definitely gonna leave it up to you. If you do want suggestions, trust me, I have made marks. So I have that too. But yes, let folks know your genius and your magic.
Oh, well, for anyone who may not be living in the Cedar Rapids or Eastern Iowa area, in August of 2020, we had a derecho here, which is an inland hurricane. And it removed, I think they said something like 60 to 70% of Cedar Rapids um, tree cover. And I actually wrote the poem Tornado Warning well before that. Um, and so I thought I would start with that one. Heather disappeared, so I think you're still there. But
I'm still here. I was just giving you the stage.
oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
I was like, you're looking, and I was like, maybe no, I
I
am
was
still
like,
here.
oh,
I was just giving
did
you
I
the
do
stage.
something wrong on the computer? I
No,
apologize.
no,
Okay,
this is all you.
so tornado warning I actually wrote before the derecho and the inland hurricane, which we are still in our community rebuilding from. But I thought this would be a good one to start with. Tornado warning. Covenanted weather, a promise, no twisters at two rivers convergence. Broken. Betrayed wisdom at the red farrowing barn, now collapsed. I sat on a stack of barnwood that hot June afternoon, muggy but no mosquitoes. Purple air dissipated. Drizzle stayed behind, dripping down silos, dampening spirits, cornfields, soybeans, piglets. We lost Grandpa's chicken coop. Rebuilding felt easier now that trust had fled and left us, leaving no reparations. We had no other place, so we pulled nails straight, reinforced walls. We knew we must survive. So that poem is just, people having to move on and get on. This next poem I'm going to read is In the Garden. A lot of people have commented on this poem, and so I chose it for you guys tonight to share. I actually wrote this many years ago and have revised it in many iterations since. In the Garden was published by the Chestnut Review in 2019. In the garden, I did not plant tomatoes this summer. I think this is what disturbs me the most. Steaming, hot, fresh from the garden from my hand, there were no sweet, tart rounds to offer you. These 90 days marked a darkness of soul, a peculiarity in spirit entwined by weedy roots that conquered the raised bed. Now I may not forage to find sun, wind, rain, soil contained in an imperfect late-season globe. I'm guilty of not planting. I await my sentence. A holy requirement willfully ignored deprived us of our expected caprese and fried greens. I am to blame. Heirlooms, glorious in rainbows, did not stretch out branches. No cherries or grapes to pop in the children's mouths when they visited. A wandering spring gave way to narrow doubt and hot, clouded vision. I failed. This nightshade is not malleable. Smashed to the floor, a bruise, a burst, unhealed, unhealable. Water-soaked days, and the fruit may have proved plump and pleasurable. No keeping corner for the unrooted. Is it lost if I never had it? I have burgled time of its rightful offspring. Too late thoughts require absolution that will never come. And then one more, the title poem, because one always reads the title poem. Seems right. Memento Vivere. I've never once seen my own name in a cemetery. Not full or even first and middle, though I'm told all the time how common my name is. On that crisp September day, somber cedars held ground around the recently and not so recently deceased. Agnes, Carlton, Roger, Mary, James, Frisco, Caleb, Eugenia, Morton, Godfrey. Near the crumbling Grant headstones, a ladybug seeking some final warmth before the hard freeze lighted on my arm. Oranges and yellows and reds reflected tree to tree across the bluff. Nearby, the breeze rustled, a few leaves loose. Later, I shared a ham sandwich and a bottle of red wine with a friend. Who died? No one. From time to time, I go to remind myself to look for my name.
Mm. You know how last lines just make you shiver? This last line made me go, say what now, what? And then literally go back to the title and reread this poem probably two more times. Because, yes, from time to time, I go to remind myself to look for my name. and the description that you gave about this chapbook and the reasoning for writing it, right? Like that remembering to live, that last line just sends shivers down my spine every time. Um, thank you so much
Yeah.
for reading. Thank you so much for putting this out into the world. There are a couple of pieces in here. I realized there was a moment in life where I did not like making any sort of markings in books. They had to be pristine, and I had to like not show any sign of me touching them. And then I realized the value in being able to highlight and take notes. And some people might find it blasphemous to fold the ears of books. But there's a story in there that I found that was really comforting for me after my grandmother passed away. And there were a couple of poems in here that actually reminded me of my grandmother. And as I'm working on a book that includes a lot of her in it and my mother, and the contrast between the two, there were several poems in this book where I'm like, first of all, that angle of telling the story, yes. But also just the book in itself reminded me of the stories that were told after her passing, because of the way in which she held books and the way in which when she would read, she would leave notes, and bend the earmarks, and do all of those things. So there were stories within it that I really, really appreciated. And there are a couple of poems that I'm already like, all right, they're coming. I've been trying to tell them for a while. And guess who got me writing? None other than Laura Johnson. So whew, this is really, really great. Thank you so much for sharing again.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so glad that we cross paths. It was such a gift to cross paths in the way that we did, in terms of the challenge that we did last January. But then we also had a chance to really get to know each other in the course that I did last July. Learn to Fly: How to Rise in Your Creative Badassery in 6 weeks. And you had a chance to be a part of that cohort of people who had a project in mind and just needed a little bit of right? Until the course itself, dives into the creative mindset, strategy, and execution of a project, and what that looks like. And I got a chance to just, what is the word? Just sit in the way your brain works in a way that just makes me so happy. And so I would love for you to talk about just your experience um, with the course, things that you got out of it. And yeah, just talk about some of the like aha moments that you had, and maybe a little bit of what you're working on, to kind of give folks a sneak peek of, not only you got a sneak peek of your chapbook, but there's more sneak peeks to come. And so kind of pull the audience along a little bit.
Well, I, I don't know if you remember, Heather, but before I actually enrolled in the course, we had a conversation. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
this because I was in my car right outside my therapist's office, right before I was going into therapy. And I was like, I don't know if I should do this. I'm in this MFA program, and I, time and all the things. And I'm so glad I did. And one of the reasons is because of the group that you brought together. We were all in very different places, all very
Mm-hmm.
different people, just very different humans, and also with very different careers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, aside and including the creative part of things. Um, it was so inspiring and helpful to me to hear these other individuals talk about their projects and their goals and their desires, um, and it would, I guess it's kind of selfish to say, but hearing people who had very different projects than mine
Mm-hmm.
inspired my own creativity, and it inspired me to go, well, the thing she's talking about definitely applies to, yeah. I learned like what we call in education like mini lessons in
Mm-hmm.
every sentence that the other participants would say about their projects and about their goals and what they were trying to do. And then also you provided a platform where we could interact with each other, where we could give each other ideas and support and kind of challenge each other. And also, sometimes it's so neat to hear someone that I didn't know the other people. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
at that time, we'd never met in person.
No, we hadn't.
We only met on social media and those platforms. Um, so neat to hear somebody who doesn't know you listen to your vision and go, I totally see you doing that. You are totally the kind of
Mm-hmm.
person that is going to rock that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just so what everybody needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody needs somebody who doesn't know them, from anybody else in the world. And I can tell you, Heather, this is what I want to do. Or, the other people in the group. And to have the other people go, yes, of course you're going to do that. I totally see that. Like they can somehow see into you
Yeah.
and they can see that that project, that idea, that whatever it is inside of you and that you are able to do it. And then they have ideas and encouragement and you provide this structure where we can interact. I mean, it was, and I will say that the other people that were in the class with me were just they neither of them were poets.
One was.
Yeah, that's right. Oh
And
yeah,
she had been
sorry.
gone from it. No, but she had been gone from it for so long. Like she was trying to figure out how to reignite the poet within her because she hadn't wrote in so long.
And a lot of her work was memoir,
Mm-hmm.
poetry. And so I have her I have her filed in my filing cabinet as a memoirist because I would read that memoir in a heartbeat. I would read it. Yeah, so just the opportunity to share and to be seen, I think
Mm.
was so valid. Like there's no monetary value one can put on that. It's really
Mm.
important.
Yeah, and I think there's something that's really special about the first cohort of folks that went through the course because right now we're in this weird space of semi-isolation, and even when you're not in isolation there's this fear that's around being out and about and around people. And I know for myself, not being around art the way I have in the past in terms of being able to go to theater, um and being able to go to readings or to even do a reading and be in front of an audience like Laura and I, when we actually had a chance to meet in person, it was actually through a festival that was running in Iowa City. And that was the first time I had read in front of, first of all, a room that beautiful and that full in so long. It had been since 2019.
Yeah.
And so the energy in the room just feeds you in a different way. And so to have a community of folks who you can run ideas by and you can, um, sometimes I know for myself, I feel like, oh, is this a good idea? Or like I said, you're just stuck in your head and you need someone to just come from the outside and kind of look in and see where you are. You all were able to provide so much support for one another that is just invaluable. And it was so beautiful to see. So I thank you for taking the leap with me, and for being a part of the course. And for sharing your and trusting your ideas with the group. I'm super excited about what's going to come out of that. I literally thought about your project one day, and in the middle of a meeting, like kind of like what's the word? Did like a yeep, and somebody was like, "What is wrong with you?" Like there was something that reminded me of your project, and then I got excited, and then like it was like a yeep, and they were like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Oh, welcome to my brain. Um, welcome to how excited I get for other people's breakthroughs and other people's kind of aha moments, and just like you said, when someone realizes their voice, and feel comfortable enough to share it. Like I genuinely get excited for that. So." I thank you for being in that space with us, and for anyone who is interested actually in being in community with other people and have a project in mind and are trying to figure out how to actually make it a reality. I'm actually doing another round of the course, and so if that's something that you're interested in, stay tuned because I'll talk a little bit more about it towards the end. But when I tell you that to have someone in a room who is a newfound writer, who is a doctor, someone in the room who is considers himself a writer but has been gone from it for so long, and to find ways to tell their story again. One of the specific things that popped out and stuck with me during that course was her talking about her getting older, and her trying to make sure that she's preserving her memories, because eventually they might disappear. And so instead of relying on somebody else to tell a story that she lived through, she's actually able to write it down. And like that made my heart just go, oh, like
Yeah.
preserving your memories is such an important part of who we are. So it was just so beautiful to be in a room, and then having an MFA candidate in the room. You know what I'm saying? No big deal. It was just really dope to have everyone there. So I thank you. Any plans that you have for 2022 that you want to share with all of the folks that are listening?
Well, in the eastern Iowa area, if you're around or you come to visit, I will be having some readings from my chapbook. In the near future, they will be responsibly scheduled, and most of the places where we might gather in person will be distanced or masked or both, all that sort of thing. So, and there will probably be a couple of online opportunities to hear some readings as well. So stay tuned. You can, follow me on Facebook or laurajohnsonwriter.com. Information will be there as well. I like performing. I like reading. I like interacting with people. I'm an introvert who loves people. So I love to go out there. Here, I'm the kind of person that you tell your life story to in the line at the grocery store, because I just like glance and smile, and you're like, I couldn't find cat food today. And it's like, tell me your whole story about your life about cats. And that's how I get a lot of just ideas and things. And I then spend a lot of time alone with my dogs, writing. And so I am working on a number of projects, not the least of which is my thesis, which I will defend next fall, which actually is taking the form of probably a feminist collection. I've been reading a lot about the intersectionality of feminism and learning about that in new ways. And also growing up in the 70s. And I've been having some conversations with older women, one of which was my mom this past year. I asked my mom, I said, I don't know if you're watching, Mom, but hi.
Hey, Mom.
Hello. I said, when did you first get a credit card in your own name? And my mom, who's in her 70s, said, I still don't have one. And so that kind of thinking is, and came to realize I've written a lot of female-centric poems. And so that may become my thesis, which I'm excited about. And, the fact that, 77% of published poets are men, we have a problem. That was the same problem Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath were facing in the first wave of feminism. So we need feminine voices out there. We need female voices out there. So I'm kind of leaning into that right now. But I know the project that made Heather squee in their meeting is not abandoned, is still very much alive. It's tentatively titled The Biology of an Octopus. And what that's all about is human beings, we get so fascinated by, lately in the last year and a half, octopi. There have been numerous documentaries and all sorts of things, or whales or manatees, but we forget to be fascinated by ourselves and by the person who lives next door and by the person who lives down the street and by the person who tells you the story of the cat food in the grocery store line. So the whole idea behind that collection is how fascinating human beings are, because we are really, really fascinating. We are really so talented and have so much just to offer each other and the world and ourselves. And so the biology of an octopus will be maybe after the feminist collection. I don't know, Heather, might get pushed away. It's still happening. My poster board is still over there. So those are the two main big projects that I'm working on right now. And so I anticipate that my next book will be a full-length book that will come out in early 2023.
I love it.
That's what I envision, and that's the plan as it stands right now. So
I love it. I love it. You're taking the necessary time it takes to birth a book. Like I said, will be your cheerleader in the front row for your readings when this happens. I just adore your work, and so I cannot wait for all of the things. So before we wrap up, one of the things that I absolutely love to do is dive into what I call a rapid flight section of kind of to end Byrd Talk. But before I do that, actually, I want to ask you this one question. We've been doing such a great job having conversation, but there's a question that I ask everyone that I think is really, really important. And it is, how do you stay in creative joy, especially in the times that we're in right now? How do you make sure that you are, I don't want to say producing in a way that feels heavy, but like, how are you making sure that you're active in creative and being in that joy?
So
You see the sigh, y'all catch the sigh? It's just, poof, and then it happens.
I'm taking a moment to think. And it also helps modulate your breath when you're talking, so you don't get breathless, right? So,
okay, all right, lesson learned.
One of the things that I do is I am an amateur artist. I do multimedia art, and I just do it for fun. And if a friend goes, "Oh, that's cool," I'm like, "Here, have it." So it's not anything I am looking to monetize or anything at all. But I believe that different creative fields and interact with other creative fields. So I sometimes will start a writing session by doing some watercolor or doing some cartooning. Linda Berry at the University of Wisconsin has a great number of journals and books about this brain connection. So not sitting down and expecting myself to do something grand every day is important to me. Also, I found it's been important for me to look for ways that friends and acquaintances are being creative in their lives, whether it's cooking or beekeeping or fashioning a new wardrobe. My middle child said over Christmas that they want to learn to sew. I'm just like spotting those moments of creativity around me and letting those just kind of wrap me up like a blanket. I think. Because we have been and continue to be a little bit isolated, and maybe have to be a little bit more so until the spring comes, right? Yeah. So I think looking around for those things, and like Stephen King says in his book on writing, get off the TV, he doesn't say get off the internet because it was a book from before that time, but get off of all of that stuff and stare at plants or stare at the snow falling and find the art in that.
Yes. So I feel like you do that so naturally too. It's like the story that's in what we don't pay attention to again. Yeah.
Heather, I just want someone to pay me a large, not even a large, a livable sum of money to do that. But I'll
Just to
take
pay.
large. I'm
I
open to
mean,
large.
we can put this out into the universe. And for folks that are listening, if you know someone who is willing to invest in someone to just pay attention and write the stories that are there, go ahead and send them Laura's way. I believe in making the impossible possible. So, you don't get what you don't ask for. So,
I'll
the ask is out there.
and I have the experience. I'll come and teach people how to do it.
There you go.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm all about that too.
that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's something definitely in the tactile that allows your brain to kind of free up so that you can write the stories that are necessary and need to be told. So I'm trying to get into the habit of that because I don't do a lot of things with my hands. But I'll clean. Like, so when I'm trying to like let go of all the things, I will rearrange my office. I will get a mop. I will clean with my hands to kind of free up my brain. But I want to find ways to be creative in other ways. I want to try origami. I've been telling myself that for the past pandemic. I haven't done it yet, but we're gonna get into it.
Yeah.
Cool. So to end this segment of Byrd Talk, we're going to hop into what we call rapid flight. And what rapid flight is I'm going to ask you 7 questions or ask you to complete some of those are statements, and you will answer them with the first thing that comes to mind. Do not feel any pressure with the right answer. It's the answer that is right for you right now. And I want you to be able to embrace that. And I know just from knowing you, there are going to be nuggets that are there too. So are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. If y'all are ready, make sure y'all type ready in the chat so that we can see you. We still have some couple of folks that are around. Nicole actually mentioned that that's a really great tip, Laura, that you gave us, that you don't have to do something grand in writing every day. It could be something that is just simple that gets your brain going. And Kelsey is super excited about your next project and cannot wait. And so we are here. Hey, and Kelsey is ready for us to kick it off too. So here we go. So for the first thing that we are, the first question, sort of, right? You're gonna finish this sentence. Creativity is go.
Something everyone has and something everyone can access.
Something everyone has and something everyone can access. Y'all remember that. Second question. What's a piece of advice that stuck with you over the years?
I got 2 of these. One is a piece of advice that I was given by Linda Bendorf in a writing workshop. And she said, whenever you have the temptation you're about to share something that you've written or created, and you have the temptation to, in some way, negate it, go, well, I only spent a few minutes. So whenever you have that temptation, instead of saying that negating phrase, you need to say, this smacks of brilliance. And so, and then read your thing.
Wait, what is the statement again? What of brilliance?
This smacks of brilliance.
Smacks of brilliance.
Because we need to build ourselves up. There's no reason to kick yourself down. Only reason. And then another piece of advice is that I used to give when I was a college counselor. I used to help kids get into college. I would tell kids, and I tell this to myself now, and I tell this to any listeners and writers, is no one is here to vote you off the island. The people who want to vote you off the island are going to ignore your work. The people who are paying attention to your work want you to succeed. They're not here to vote you off the island. So those 2 pieces of advice.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'm going to be holding on to that one. I love, because usually when I have people, no, I'm not going to go into it because this is supposed to be quick. It's supposed to be rapid. I love that. I just love it. I love it. Okay. Next question. What's a lesson that you've had to learn and relearn?
But it's okay to just be. You don't have to do. You can just be sometimes. I was brought up in a house where we did a lot of things. If we weren't studying, we were cleaning. If we weren't cleaning, we were reading. If we weren't reading, we were dancing. It's okay to just sit on the couch and be.
And be. I think I needed to hear that one. Complete this sentence. Next, I am building
My new career as a creative writing teacher and space maker, and maybe artist retreat coordinator, to make spaces for everyone, including myself.
Possibilities are endless. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. What's one thing you are really excited about right now?
Well, I'm really excited about my book being out in the world. I am super excited to have someone I don't know buy my book, because everybody that I know, including the bookstore owners that have taken some books onto their shelves, I know them personally, have a personal relationship with them. And that's awesome. And I love all of y'all. It's fantastic. I'm super excited to have somebody buy the book that doesn't know who I am, and I just think that'll be a cool feeling. I'm also just really excited to keep reading and keep seeing all the things that come out of the last 2.5 years of creative people, poetry, reflections, journals. I just am loving all of the creativity that people are putting out into the world as a result of the pandemic and how it's affected their worlds.
Yeah. Woof. All right. I love that.
I could go on and on. I'll stop.
I know, but this is really great. Like, we should be excited about so many things. But those two things are really great. What are you deeply grateful for right now?
My dogs.
I saw him make a cameo in the background there.
Yeah, you probably did. I have a Dalmatian, and then a Golden Doodle Rescue. And with my 2 older children being on their own, and my youngest still lives at home, but is more like a roommate and a mess maker than anything else. Just their company has been very, very wonderful. I am also really grateful for the opportunity we had in November to come together and do some poetry, and the connections that can be sustained both in person and via virtual situations. Super grateful for my editor, Leslie, at Cabin Bear Books. Super grateful for my friends, Molly, Mary, Dwayne. Love all of these people who talk me off the edge, and super grateful for people like you, Heather, who say, hey, yeah, don't give up on the biology of the octopus, and offer suggestions. So just connections.
Yes, thank you so much. It's so important for us to stay in gratitude as we are moving through this space and remembering to live, right? Part of that is being grateful and letting the people that we are grateful for also know that we are grateful for them. So thank you so much for sharing that. And then last but not least, this is one of my favorites. It's going to take a little time to think about. You might have more, but here we go. What are the 5 books you could not live without?
Okay, so I'm just going to reveal to everyone, you did give me heads up on this. So because otherwise I'd be like looking at my shelves over here.
You're
going,
like, where, what?
So one of the books that I love is Ignore Everybody and 39 Other Keys to Creativity. Love that book by Hugh MacLeod. If you haven't read it, it's an easy read. You can reread it. It's wonderful. So definitely love that one. Poems, Poets, and Poetry by Helen Vendler is a craft book that I started studying fall of 2020, and it's so dense. I'm still studying it. I will be studying it the rest of my life. She's amazing. So I would say Ross Gay's The Book of Delights.
All of Ross Gay all the time.
If anybody has not read The Book of Delights by Ross Gay, you need to buy it immediately from your local independent bookstore. Have them order it for you. Ross is amazing. I was in a virtual workshop with him this past year, and he's an amazing. Ross is an amazing human, and this book deserves your attention. All of his work does, but this one in particular will draw you in. And you can reread it over and over and over and over and over.
I love it.
I would also say Craft in the Real World by Matthew Salisis. If you've not read this and you are a teacher of writing, you should definitely read this, because he talks about how the tradition of writing workshops has been to make all writers' work accessible and palatable to white cisgendered males.
Mm-hmm.
And how that is not how craft needs to be done starting today. And I won't say that he vilifies the Iowa Writers Workshop. I have some problems with some of the things there, which is not to say it's a bad place. It's, world renowned. And there are other ways to do workshops that honor voices and honor the humans in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say definitely that one. Also, 3 Martini Afternoons at the Ritz.
What is this one?
This is a memoir of the relationship and the careers, the relationship between and the careers of Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath.
Huh.
And so if you're into first wave feminism in poetry, and it's engaging and interesting and fascinating. And here's my bonus book. I got a bonus book for you.
Oh, of course. I like bonuses.
This is the Dream Book and Planner. I've been using this since 2018. It's from the Dragon Tree Apothecary, and it is a boot camp for life. It helps you set 1, 3, 5, 10, and lifetime goals every year. Helps you break them down by quarter, by week, by day, and it has been a life changer for me. So while it's not a book that one reads, it's a book that one engages with. Everybody has their own systems, but if you're looking for a system, Google Dragon Tree Apothecary and look at their planners.
I love that.
Because it's got me from going, why am I in Iowa again, to, hey, okay, what's next? So there you go.
Great bonus. These are awesome. These are awesome. And so hopefully you all were able to catch those books. If not, I will definitely link them in the replay below. And if you're watching this on the replay, please make sure you hashtag replay so that we know that you are here. There is so much that was offered in this space. And I am so grateful for you to have joined us today. I want to challenge everyone that is watching and everyone that will watch the replay to make Laura's wish come true. And what I mean by that is Laura, one of the things that Laura wants to make happen in terms of something that's going to make her really excited is for someone that she doesn't know to buy her book. And when I tell you there's that feeling of knowing that your words are getting not only past your own community, but outside of your community is something that is so powerful and so meaningful. And then to also get that feedback back from someone, it means the world. And so I want to challenge everyone to be in that space and to share this video with someone that you know who is a book lover. I have books everywhere, and there are people that are just like you, they're just like me, right? They're literally everywhere. that are like us, and I want to make Laura's dream come true. So make sure you share this with other people. Make sure you follow Laura on Facebook at Laura Johnson Writer, so that you're getting all of her updates. Know when the readings will take place, whether in person or virtual. We want to make sure that we're supporting her. And then also, if you haven't already purchased your copy of, we're gonna try this one last time, Heather. Memento dang it. Rire?
Weary.
Rire. I want to do the V's. I want to
Perfect.
do the V's. The V's are not the thing. Okay. Make sure you purchase a copy of her book. Support her. The link is here. I also placed the link in the chat, so you can just click on it, make your purchase, and make all of her wildest dreams come true. Thank you so much for being here again, Laura. Do you have any last words for the people that are watching today?
If logistical thing, if you buy my book from my website, I will sign it and send it to you. And if you want it personalized, I'll be happy to do that.
It's true.
If you can buy it on Amazon and some other online booksellers, and certainly that's great too. But if you buy it from me, I'll ship it the next day to you. Last words, I should have something wise. And
if you want to think about it, we can always come back, because I have a couple of announcements.
I would just say I would close with just an encouragement to whatever your creativity is just do it. Mm-hmm. Do it in the amount that fits in with your life. There's no guilt about it if you do it one day and then you don't do it for 30 more days. Just enjoy it, engage with it, whatever it is. And when you're ready, share some of it with the world, because we need it.
Yes. That fits so perfectly into some of my closing comments. Thank you for sharing that so much. As I mentioned earlier, there are so many stories that we're holding on to. And one of the ways that we can preserve our memories is by writing our stories. So whether you're writing it in a journal and never sharing it with anyone, that's a step. Or if you're sharing it with the word on a public platform, or with a friend, or your uncle or your cousin or your grandmother, whatever, if you're sharing it with one other person, you're taking another leap in doing so. And sometimes we need that little reminder that our dreams of writing our story and the transformation that comes from that and the visibility that comes from that is necessary. And that sometimes there is fear that it's around that. But sometimes you need a little push to be in creative action. And so one of the things that I have started is a movement to leap into your story, to leap into whatever dream that you have for yourself that is creative. Sometimes we need a little bit of a reminder. And I know when I wake up in the morning and I am not feeling 100% when it comes to being creative, or I wake up and I'm like, I know I need to do this thing. I know I need to do this thing, but fear kicks in. I need a little bit of a reminder. And so I created a merch line that I am currently wearing right now. And the t-shirt says, "Leap and your wings will appear." And within this merch line, what we are really doing is encouraging ourselves to trust in our own ability to do the things that we've always wanted to do. So if you are interested in getting a little bit of that inspiration into your lives, I am putting the link down below. I will also put it in the chat if you want to purchase either your Leap in Your Wings Will Appear t-shirt, or one of my favorite things, I started my morning pages journal and then I got this and I had to switch books. Because when I wake up in the morning and I'm not entirely sure I want to do my morning pages, this is a reminder that I do need to do my morning pages. So we have journals, we have t-shirts, we have sweatshirts, just a little bit of an inspiration and a reminder for you to move forward. And if you're feeling as if you want to make that move and you don't necessarily know how, I am doing another round of Learn to Fly, How to Rise in Your Creative Badassery in 6 weeks at the end of this month. And so, if this is something that you are interested in, please reach out to me. I can definitely hop on a call with you. I did it with Laura just to see if this is something that you are interested in, what kind of projects you're working on, and whether or not I can help you do that. I know that there are folks that are walking around here that have a story buried in their bones, but they're not necessarily sure how to get that story out into the world, right? And so, folks that are going to be a part of this cohort, you will build the confidence, and you heard from Laura, build the confidence to really move your story forward and to transform an idea into something that is powerful that you can share with the world and really inspire others and let them know that they are not alone. So I am super excited for the things that we have that are coming up next. If you enjoyed today's session, please make sure that you follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Blue Birds World, so that you're getting all of the updates of when we're doing our next bird talk, all the things that are coming our way. And thank you so much for being here. I see you all, Kelsey, Roslyn, Nicole, you all were in the building, and I really, really appreciate you. And I want to let you know that you are not alone, and that I see you, and that you are a hummingbird. You have the power to move so many people with your vibration. And I want to encourage you to do so. And I want to also encourage you to keep exploring, keep creating. And as always, you all keep flying. Until next time, I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye. Thank you, Laura, for being here again.